Hello, today I'll talk about World War I. It was Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, which went all the way down to the Sinai, and then Bulgaria joined as well, killed Serbia, which the Austro-Hungarian Empire was struggling against Serbia. I'm deleting all these lines that I'm drawing because I'm gonna draw borders later, so we'll draw other things later. And then there were the British. That's not the right color. Yeah, that's still the same. Okay, but there were the British, which were repressing Ireland. And there were the French, who also controlled down here. And I'm pretty sure there was a something that happened in Morocco, some crisis before the World War I. Also the British owned Malta and Cyprus, which were both key in securing the Mediterranean. And that's and also I forgot to highlight Russia. And then there's Russia, one of the most multi-ethnic empires. One of the things about Russia is what Germany wanted to do. Germany wanted a Polish puppet to shorten the border, and they ended up pushing so far that they got a Baltic Dutch puppet and a Ukrainian puppet and a Belarusian puppet and a Ukrainian puppet, along with the Polish puppet. But the Austro-Hungarians also wanted influence in Poland as well, so it's kind of complicated. But speaking of wants from the war, Italy also wanted the good things from this war. They wanted Tunisia. The British would not give Italy Tunisia because if they had Tunisia and Sicily, they could just blockade right there. So they would much rather have Tunisia in the hands of France, which they know is an ally, and especially not have both sides of this here be controlled by the same country, because it makes it a lot harder when there's two countries, especially if they're not cooperating. So that's why the Italians kind of wanted to go to war with Entente, because they wanted Tunisia to include in their African colonies in Libya, which is just south of Italy. They also controlled Sardinia. And the French controlled Corsica. But they also really wanted South Tyrol, Trieste, the area near Trieste, and a bit of Croatia from the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And they really did not like the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Yes. Because before Italian unification, they controlled Lombardy Veneto, which looked something like this. Yes, there's something like that. But now on to plans for the war. How did Germany think that they were going to defeat the powers when they were their team was pretty much in the middle and on a two-front war? Well, first we have to look at the Russo-Japanese War. I'm not going to write that. I'm pretty sure you can hear me, so. With the Russo-Japanese War, the Russians were completely embarrassed in that war. And it made Germany think, well, the Russians aren't possibly going to be able to do anything on the Eastern Front. Let's just kill France. And to kill France, that's my rough estimation of Paris, they decided to do the Schlieffen Plan. They would go through Belgium, attack Paris from this side, and also go down and encircle the French armies on the Franco-German border. They wanted to do this because they did not want to go into France through the Franco-German border. Oh, and when they started doing that, going around Belgium to get to Paris, going through Belgium to get to Paris, it was eventually called the Rape of Belgium. It made Britain very mad. But the Germans didn't really care because they knew the British were going to join eventually because they knew that Britain didn't want Germany to have too much control. But in response to the Schlieffen Plan, France launched Plan 17. They pretty much did a major attack into the Franco-German border and did an attack there. Their attacks failed. Germany did end up pushing quite close to Paris, but then the Battle of the Marne happened, and it was like right here. It was where the French, can this be any smaller? It's where the French decided they're getting close to the city. Oh, also, I almost forgot. The Germans, instead of going and encircling Paris, one of the German commanders was like, nah, I feel like being closer to the people who are attacking Paris that way, we're just going to attack Paris from the east. We're not going to bother attacking from the north. So, and then the French learn of those plans. So you know what they do? They attack them. And then German reinforcements come and make like a 30-mile gap in the front line. The British and French go into that gap. And because the front line was broken, the main commander, who is in Luxembourg, quite far away from the front, orders a retreat because their lines are getting overrun. So they retreat north. Verdun is probably like there. There's also this river, the Somme, which is like right there, which will be two key battles in 1917. But first, we gotta talk about the Russian successes. They managed to push into Galicia, just a teensy bit into East Prussia. Since they were able to do that, Germany had to divert troops from there. And this was before the Battle of the Marne. So they divert troops. Then they start pushing. Pushing back very, very hard. And yes, they do get kind of encircled in Poland. Not too much, but because of... yeah, but enough. Yeah, they really were not having a good time. Famines, the war effort, and then the Tsar is like, later in the war, he's like, the commanders aren't doing that good of a job. We've been pushed back. However far they got pushed back. What if I, Tsar Nicholas, I'm pretty sure that was Tsar Nicholas. It might have been the one that, and then Tsar Nicholas might have been the one that took power after the Tsar abdicated. I can't remember. But the Tsar takes control over the military. Safe to say, he doesn't do very much. But I do know that, pretty sure it was something like, no, it's more like, yeah, something like that. The Austrians were like, we're doing really good over here. Let's put our elite troops over here and move the worst troops back to fight Russia. It was a bad idea. Russia saw this shuffling of troops and pushed. I don't know. It's probably not exactly what actually happened, but like the exact borders. But I know that they pushed back. Then I'm pretty sure Germany reinforced or something. I also know that Romania ended up joining the war, and that was pretty much just crushed, and the front was pretty much just extended. And then, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Serbia was doing very well against the Austro-Hungarian army. But Bulgaria, who wanted North Macedonia, and also they had, like, here, where they, like, were promised, like, that, or like that or something, in the First Balkan War, when the Ottoman Empire controlled pretty much everything. Yeah, they controlled, like, everything. Like, all of the Balkans. Then they won. And then Bulgaria got, like, snuffed out of the treaty. Out from what it was promised. Mainly North Macedonia. So then the Second Balkan War happened. Which was just about Bulgaria against these. I'm pretty sure it was just Bulgaria against Serbia, Greece, and then Romania and the Ottoman Empire declared war on them to gain territory. Bulgaria lost, and now Bulgaria declares war on Serbia. The Serbian troops die, but the Entente forces still capture northern Greece. This will be a problem later. And now we go to the Franco-German front, or the Western Front, as it was called. And also, Germany did not go through the Netherlands, even though their rail network, because they were a trading partners. Oh, also, the British are blockading the heck out of the Germans. The Germans are definitely dying. But France, the UK, and all of its colonies, and Russia, and Italy, all decide we should attack the Germans all at once. Because if we just on the Western Front attack, then the Germans can divert troops and stop the attack. But if we all attack at once, we won't be able to divert enough troops. This plan hinged on the Germans not doing an offensive. You know how Verdun is, like, right there? The Germans launched the Battle of Verdun. This is in, like, 1916. While the British and the French, mainly the British because the French, and are trying desperately to protect the Verdun. So mainly the British launched the Battle of the Somme. It was very deadly because they did not do enough artillery fire at first. They ended up concentrating their artillery fire and pushing a little bit. Just trying to erase my circles. But, also the Russians launch an offensive. It fails very miserably. They get pushed back more. And also, later, after the Battle of Verdun, the Germans wanted Verdun because if they captured Verdun, the French would put a lot of resources to get it back. The Germans could kill so many French people. But the Germans ended up losing in Verdun, and even though it was really bloody and a really long battle, they still lost. Great morale defeat. And the British ended up pushing in the Somme. And the Somme, I said the Somme was a river. But they didn't really get anything effective done. And then later, the Germans, Vladimir Lenin, was locked up in Switzerland because he was expelled from Russia. The Germans put him on a train, sent him up through Sweden, smuggle him through Finland, which is past the map, I can't draw there, and smuggle him into Russia. This causes a lot more instability in Russia. And then the provisional government, which was a democracy, I don't have enough room. But, overthrew the Tsar. Tsar Nicholas and the family was captured. They do not sign a treaty with Germany. And then Lenin and his communists rose up as well and started a civil war. But they were dumb and decided, we're not going to fight the Germans, but we won't sign a treaty either. And guess what the Germans do? Push. They get that Belarusian duchy, Belarusian puppet, Ukrainian puppet, Polish puppet, and Baltic puppet, when they could have just signed the treaty immediately and got a much better peace deal. But no, they decided to just not put any troops on the front line and also not fight. It doesn't really matter. And at this point, the Ottomans are also really tired, especially after committing their Armenian genocide, which, oh my gosh, I could have just put it over there. Whatever. Which was, I still can't reach Armenia, which was like over there. But yeah. Once Russia died, Germany launched the Spring Offensive. They failed and died a lot. And around this time, they were also sending the Zimmerman telegram, which was pretty much asking Mexico to try to kill the U.S. so they could distract them, so they could launch submarine warfare and destroy the blockades, and make it so no British ships could actually do anything. And at this time, submarines were practically just boats that could go underwater. They were not very good, but they were still very effective. especially since they had torpedoes. I'm pretty sure they had torpedoes, and I'm pretty sure most armor on ships at that time was above the water, and they just didn't have that much armor underneath the water. So they were, I'm pretty sure, it might have been earlier that torpedoes were invented and then the armor was increased. I can't remember. But the important part is that Germany has lost too many men. The U.S. asked its boat, the Lusitania, and the Zimmermann telegram, get them to join the war against Germany, who was definitely the aggressor because they did the rape of Belgium, and other atrocities. Even though they both did atrocities and both did mustard gas. And also there's a region in France that's like here that from World War I, you still aren't allowed to go into it because so much mustard gas was released there. Yeah, it's kind of insane. But the Germans are starting to lose, and they decide, well, if we keep going on this war, our front lines are going to collapse, and we're going to have, like, the worst peace treaty ever. And which the front line collapses. Italy doesn't get all of what they want. Well, and also, the southern front, the Greek forces, are now pushing north into Austria-Hungary, or just the Balkans, I can't remember. And the Ottomans are losing ground in the Middle East. So it's pretty much over for the Germans. The treaties are signed. Czechoslovakia comes to existence. The Polish corridor. Oh wait, it was like, yeah. Polish corridor. And I'm now going to go and make another recording.